Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Mr. Tosin Shobukola. With a career spanning over 15 years as an enterprise architect, Mr. Shobukola is a dynamic tech leader renowned for driving impactful digital transformations. His expertise extends across diverse domains, including data analytics, cybersecurity, cloud governance, and digital transformation. Mr. Shobukula's global expertise encompasses collaboration with top organizations across 25 countries, where he has navigated complex technological landscapes to align solutions with organizational goals. Especially in the areas of data and AI, his passion lies in inspiring change, fostering inclusive workspaces, and sharing insights that propel the ever evolving tech landscape forward. In addition to his professional pursuits, Mr. Shobukola is also the founder of Analytics Africa, a social enterprise set up to foster the growth of knowledge around analytics in Africa. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Tosin Shobukola.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again for that warm introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Professor Donna. Good afternoon, all protocols duly observed. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's my pleasure to be here today. Please let me know when you can see my screen. So today, I'll be talking to you on the title, The Role of AI in the Future of Work and Jobs. And it seems like I've been set up because this previous speaker spoke on something similar. But I guess it's something that we have to talk about because whether we like it or not, AI is here, and the job requirements for the future is changing rapidly. I have a lot of slides, but I'm going to try to be as quick as possible just to make my 30 minutes count. And I'm going to take questions once I'm done. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Okay, so the agenda, we talk about the jobs responsible for, the factors responsible for jobs in the future. We talk about AI, there are 4 factors. We talk about AI, how AI affects the workplace. We talk about robotics. We talk about the remote work. And we talk about the gig economy / contract economy. And then we talk about the new approaches and how we can leverage a human-centered approach. Because at the end of the day, humans need to work because they work, they get paid, and then they are able to fend for themselves. And then we look at how humans can collaborate with machines and how machines can augment the jobs of humans. And then we see how organizations can go and adopt the new approach, because typically the way to do it is to send everybody home or fire everybody. But there's a need for a strategic approach whereby we reskill and we upskill. And of course, we look at how to finish this quickly. Okay, so the concept of work is undergoing a transformation because a lot of economic things are happening, societal norms are happening, technological advancements are happening, and organizations are faced with the challenge to adapt. Just a few years ago, though it's certainly 4 years, we were all shut in by the pandemic, which is COVID, and changed a lot of things that we do and the ways in which we did stuff. Some people will never have worked remotely, but now everybody has a remote option. Today, we are all gathered together in a room and we are all in different locations and we are still having our conferences. And these technologies have made work easier, life is more efficient, and there's a concern that as technology begins to streamline operations, people are going to lose their jobs. And just as we were settling into the new technology, AI got to the inflection point. And what that means is that people are still going to lose more jobs. Now, we have to find a way whereby humans and technology can work together so that the new roles that come with the advancement of technology can be created. And what this means is that we need a human-centered approach to technology integration, because if we don't think of the humans first, we will focus on the benefits that the machines give us. We will focus on the complexities and everything. And at the end of the day, the humans are going to be sent home. However, if we take it from a human-centered approach, we would put our workers first, we would put their mental health and balance first, and then we're going to have a very dynamic, diverse workforce. Now, in the jobs of the future, there are four main things that are driving this. The first thing is automation and AI. The second one is, in no particular order, the second one is remote work. Then the third is diverse, inclusive workforces, because people now need to be working from home, but we need to ensure that there's a balance when they are working from home. And lastly, we now have the contracts economy, or what we call the gig economy. Now, what are the factors? Those are the four factors I've mentioned. And the impact of AI is because of the inflection point where we have generative AI and more discoveries are happening. And now companies are beginning to incorporate AI technologies. For example, a simple ChatGPT has caused the loss of jobs for script writers, has caused the loss of job for content writers, and artists are beginning to lose their job. We can also talk about the gig economy, whereby people and companies are now deciding whether they want to spend time hiring someone full-time, whereas they can get someone who will do it without the pains of a full-time employee, paying his taxes, paying his benefits, and all that. You can always go on Upwork, get somebody who will deliver. You get on or Fiverr, you get somebody who will deliver. And then sometimes globalization makes it possible to employ somebody from the other side of the pond, and you are still able to get all the results that you want. The other thing is that as companies begin to work long hours, there's also the need for diversity. And of course, there's the concept of women empowerment, whereby we want to make sure that ladies are there's gender bias, there's gender equality. And then, of course, we need to ensure that people are reintegrated either because they leave the workforce for one reason or the other. And more than that, we need to ensure that it's a muster role of everybody's skills and everybody's capacity. Now, not one person is going to have all the skills, but we're able to blend with each other and bring out the best out of each other. The last one is remote work, whereby people can work from wherever they want to. And we see that for some employees, because they don't have to drive to work or they don't have to take the bus or train, they're able to perform better. And then this now impacts you because you can rise out of bed to your laptop and then you never close. And then you're working 18 hours nonstop, and then that begins to affect your mental health. Now, what are some of the ways in which we've seen AI and robotics in the workplace? The first one is automation. The automation leads to increased efficiency, reducing manual labor, repetitive tasks are eliminated. And because we have now seen more efficiency, we're able to think and get more ideas. Before it was querying ChatGPT that we were able to do. Now we are querying PDFs. Now we're not just querying. We started with Google queries. Now we've moved to ChatGPT query. Now we are querying PDFs and URLs. And now we are using ChatGPT to write books. And it's just endless. And when you begin to see these simple ideas, you begin to scale them, and there's a lot of beautiful things that can happen. And of course, sometimes the robots will never get sick. They will never come late to work. They will always deliver. Now we're able to innovate and get more things done. Of course, there's also the part of augmentation through robotics. And what is augmentation? That is, the humans still do their work, but the technology makes them work smarter, makes them work faster, makes them do things better. A simple example is the way in which we have more accurate assembly of cars, more accurate assembly of computers, more accurate professional writing, and all those kind of stuff. And of course, and then robotic process automation that we begin to see in our organizations. All those boring stuff has now been made easy with augmentation. So robotics has three ways. It has automation, it has innovation, and it brings in augmentation. Now, we are beginning to see some changes in the roles of the future, and we begin to see this. This is from the World Economic Forum document, where they sampled the roles that are key for this new transformation across about 5 or 7 locations. They did try to do it across continents, but they broke some continents down, e.g. Asia to South Asia, North Asia. Africa was broken and combined with the Middle East and all sorts. But this is the one for Europe, which kind of, the difference is not so much across board. we begin to see that as businesses are beginning to transform, some roles are beginning to lose relevance. Like we can see in this chart that we have here, as we can see in this chart that we have here, some roles are getting more and more required. So we are beginning to have a lot of requirement for data scientists and data analysts, project managers, business development, because those are the guys that do the innovation, not the sales. And then we begin to see that assembly workers, data entry clerks, administrative secretaries are losing their jobs. Everybody now can operate a computer. You don't need a secretary to type your letters. You don't need a messenger to go deliver your mail. You can do everything by yourself. So these roles here are beginning to disappear. And then we are beginning to see that the other roles are beginning to take more cognizance. So, and as technology begins to have impact, we are beginning to see some technologies, which is just a continuation of what I was showing the last slide, whereby big data, encryption and cybersecurity, because whenever you talk about data, you have to talk about security. Whenever you talk about security and data, you have to talk about digital platforms. And all this requires a kind of education. Now we begin to see that as these things begin to happen, they are creating more and more jobs. But the most significant disruptor here is artificial intelligence, which is displacing jobs the most. It's displacing a lot of jobs. Its impact is good, but it's also displacing a lot of jobs. So these technologies, and they are impacting job creation, and we will continue to see more and more of that happening. Now, the skills that we needed in the past from the Stone Age used to be a lot of physical activities. And in the industrial age also used to be a lot of physical activities. If you're working in the mines, if you were working in the car assembly point, you needed all those kind of skills. But now you need a lot of thinking. Today, now we've been here for 2 days. It's a lot of thoughts. It's a lot of ideas. It's a lot of concepts. Nobody had to run 20 kilometers to get in here. Nobody had to walk 600 kilometers to prove that he's the best. Rather, we are engaging in intellectual conversations, and we are engaging in strategic conversations, and a lot of things are being done to make sure that the world is a better place, to make sure that things are better. People are thinking about how to improve the life of others. People are thinking about how to make money. And all this happen up here. Now, we are seeing that these core skills are beginning to become more important. Before, you could be grumpy, you could be a solo learner or a solo behavior person, and you could survive. But today, now you need to be very, very cohesive with other people. You need to engage with other people. You cannot even, I mean, if you're in business, if you don't engage with people, who's going to buy your processes or buy your products? So these new skills are beginning to take more impact on the organizations that we see. And we can see that that is where the reskilling focus is going to happen. Yes, we have the tech skills, but they are just a component that goes into the analytical thinking. There is this iceberg picture of AI, for example, that says, oh, AI is beautiful, AI is amazing. But the bottom of it is a lot of machine learning, deep learning, and all that stuff. But the value, which is the top of the iceberg, which we see and appreciate, is the business, is the opportunities, is the insights, is the wonderful things that AI allows us to do. And that also still comes and boils down to analytical thinking, AI and big data, creative thinking, lifelong learning. Technological literacy is second nature. It's as good as you cannot speak English if you do not know technology. So we begin to see that a lot of thinking, a lot of thought processing, the economy of thought. Bill Gates wrote the books, Business at the Speed of Thought. That was about 20, 30 years ago. But that is exactly what we are seeing today. A lot of thinking processes and descriptive ideas and a lot of lifelong learning, just like the last speaker said, at his senior age, he's still learning. And we also keep learning. And all the things that we learned in the university is old. And even before we leave this meeting here where we are talking about AI, a lot of technologies that we've spoken about in the next 2 days will be old. So learning and learning and learning is a very, very critical skill that we need for the future. Now, I'm not going to waste too much time about remote work because I've mentioned it and I've mentioned it, so I'm going to skip this. But we know that it brings cost savings, it brings flexibility, it allows you to get talent from locations that you would not have imagined before because they don't have to commute, and a lot of good things are happening. Of course, there's the challenge of remote work because sometimes we are humans and we are social beings. We need to see each other. But thank God for video. But sometimes, again, it's not as perfect as you'd like it. And of course, well-being, which is very, very critical. You work from home, you meet from home, you do a lot of things from home. If care is not taken, you're not going to be able to put a line to divide your work and your personal life. And that's a very, very critical issue. Now, what are the things that organizations can do? We are going to talk more about this, but the first thing is organizations can begin to invest in training programs, skilling their employees. They should be able to create flexible work arrangements. I think I see this a lot in the UK, where today they tell you, oh, this job is based in London, but you don't have to come to the office every day. You have to come to the office twice a week, and then the rest of it is 3 days at home. We are beginning to see a lot of that. I've not seen it in many other countries, but I've seen it a lot in the UK. And then, of course, people are now beginning to say, if we need a graphics, if we need a logo, or we need a website, we don't need to have a full-time employee having a website. And if he's going to build us a website, it has to be a content management system. So we don't have to call him every time. So we call him in, he builds the website, 6 weeks, project finished, we pay him, he goes, we have our website, and we hand it over to somebody local, and the person manages it. So a lot of contract arrangements. Some people say if the person is not facing customers, he's not going to be a full-time employee. So we're not going to have him full-time, and he can be let go at any time. And a lot of strategies for remote work or gig workers for contract work, and gig worker models, we are beginning to see that happening today. I'm going to skip this now, investing in training programs, because I have some things there, but I'll just mention it. Organizations need to look at a lot of skilling for their people, because if you just adopt the technology and send people home, we're going to have a lot of issues all over the world. It has to be reskilling, it has to be upskilling, and it has to include the new technologies that are evolving. Yes, I've explained this. I'm going to skip this because of time. I'm going to skip this. So what are some of the things that we are going to need to do? They need to design deliberately. When I work with organizations, a lot of companies think it's just about the configuration and the deployment of the technology. But I take a lot of time to focus on the adoption. And that adoption usually involves scale-up trainings, reskilling, and ensuring that the people are able to use whatever you deploy. And that is exactly what we need to do here. Though we have a lot of AI, we have a lot of new technology, the plan has to be really, really deliberate for them to be able to learn the new technologies. And of course, we talked about key skills earlier on. The analytical thinking, digital literacy, adaptability, lifelong learning are very important. And the organization needs to have it in place. It doesn't have to be sending them to university or sending them to another school. It has to be in place. There has to be apprenticeship. There has to be rotational assignments. There has to be mentorship programs, which we see today, but it's not mainstream. Only a very few large-scale multinationals are doing this, but this is the way that people are going to learn quickly, hands-on and rapid learning. Not a 5-year course, not another 2-year program, not another MBA, not another PhD, with all due respect, but accelerated learning, exactly the same thing that the previous speaker mentioned. And we now need to have a human-centered approach. Like I mentioned, humans are the biggest assets in every organization. And we need to ensure that humans are well taken care of while we do this evolution, because we cannot just focus on the technology and throw away with the humans. They are still critical, they are still necessary, and we need to take care of them. Okay. Now, we need to, and what are some of the things that help us to do this human-centered approach? We need to focus on the humans first. Think about the employees first rather than thinking about the technology. We need to make sure that they have better experiences. So augmentation should be well considered. We should not just design augmentation or automation or process enhancement. We need to ensure that these things cater for the way people think, cater for the way people work. We're not trying to make people to work for the machines. It's the machines working for the people. And people need to be able to align, and machines need to be able to align and make life easier for people. We need to make sure the environment is inclusive. We need to ensure that people are going to be sensitive. People are going to be afraid. People are going to be defensive. but we need to ensure that whatever we do has to take them into cognizance. We need to respect their emotions, and we need to make sure it is landed properly, not drive it in quickly and send them away approach. It has to be properly thought about, and it has to be smoothly handled. And then the human-machine collaboration refers to how they work together to ensure that there's a lot of collaboration, we get the best out of both of them, and employees are able to focus on high-value tasks while machines can do the repetitive activities. And this allows us by enhancing productivity, combining human and machine capabilities. Humans contribute the creativity that they have, while machines offer the speed, accuracy, and the ability to process a lot of data, a lot of machine parts, a lot of all those stuff. And of course, when we are able to have them working together, everybody and the humans are going to achieve higher performance levels. They close earlier, they have time to spend with their families, and they're able to do better things. And of course, decision-making is better because now things are done better. Human beings are not spending a lot of time doing manual or repetitive tasks, and then the quality of delivery is expected to be better. And of course, problems are going to be solved quicker and better. And organizational adoption for the future, like I mentioned, change management is critical, clear communication, stakeholder engagement, training programs for employees are critical. And what are the things that we need for a very solid change management process? We need the leadership support, we need employee engagement and buy-in. Sometimes employees are going to be stubborn, they're not going to agree, but we need to be able to meet them in the middle, and we need to be able to help them repurpose. Because as we typically say, AI is not going to take anybody's job. It's someone using AI that is going to take people's jobs. So we need to let employees see that, hey, AI is not landing to take your job. It's another person like you using AI who's likely to take your job. So you had better skill up or reskill so that you would not lose your job. You'd rather be the person who is getting paid more or who is able to do better. And what are some of these challenges? There's the resistance, like I mentioned, and then opportunities are going to be discarded. A lot of people are going to say, no, it's not going to work, but we need to find a way to make sure that people can work together and people can get all the things done. Yes, and in conclusion, we've talked about AI, we've talked about robotics, we've talked about remote work, we've talked about a diverse and inclusive environment. We've talked about having a human approach to ensuring that AI doesn't chase people away. And we've also tried to say that there has to be a collaborative human-machine interaction so that humans can do the more creative thinking, which is what is going to be happening in the future. And then the adoption of this process has to be well thought out and well planned. And of course, when we do this together, it's going to be a better place and everybody's going to be happy. Thank you very much. I'm Tosin Shobukola. You can meet me on LinkedIn, and you can also send me an email. It's wonderful being here. Thank you, and I'm now open for questions.
Thank you, Tosin, for the great presentation. Are we have any questions?
Where would you find funding for what you explained, this conversion, if you have an existing, say, nonprofit or for-profit company?
Can you please, I heard a nonprofit. Where would you find what, please?
Where would you find funding if you're a startup, a nonprofit or a for-profit startup? Maybe where would you find funding for this? What you explained is adaptation, right? Integration of a new system, and that costs money, right? Technology isn't free. How, if you're a small company and you want to begin down this process because you understand exactly everything you explained, how would one go about finding funding resources or the ecosystem to support this transition?
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for that question. Well, I always like to think of solutions not from permit me to say, I always like to think of solutions based on what is possible and what is not possible, and then think about the money last. Because if I think of the funding first, I'm going to get a mental block, and then that's going to block everything. So if I was going to do it, I would start with an assessment I would look at what is available and where we stand and where we need to get there. And then I'm going to build a roadmap to say, I know I'm not a Fortune 500. I know I don't have 5 billion, but this needs to happen anyway. So what are the things that we can do within the confines of the affordability that we have? Yes, that's the first things I'm going to do. And of course, if it's a for-profit, there are ways of generating money. You do business development and you find new revenue or grow your revenue. If it's a non-profit, then it means that you need to go search for a grant that is going to encourage or enable this thing. But first of all, I would start with an assessment. And this is one of the things I do for people. I help them with an assessment. I start with an assessment, look at where you are, and then we give you a maturity model. Are you down here or are you near up? I call it an AI readiness assessment. And when we discover where you are, we now do a roadmap for you based on whatever it is. So the roadmap for nonprofit A is different from the roadmap of IEEE that has all the funds, and it's different from the roadmap of NASA, who has all the government funds, and it's different from the roadmap of the startup, who is just in the incubation hub. And when we build that roadmap for you, you now decide on the budget that you need, and then we are able to now decide on how to go about this. Question answered, Dr. Geddes?
Yes, thank you very much. And can you put your business information in the chat, please? Excellent point and conversations that you brought up. And I'd like to say thank you for reiterating the human factor, because it's so important, the human factor in this. So we heard you loud and clear, and thank you for your expertise and your time.
Thank you, Dr. Geddes.